So throughout my career, I've surrounded myself with experts, and I can't teach everything in this program. So that's why I wanted to bring in Dennis. Let's give it up for Dennis. Hey, who has done $1 billion in Facebook ads. And together, we wanted to be able to certify your guys' agency so that when you go through the training, you actually are certified and legit.
We want to see you guys actually make money. These businesses are hurting. So when you go through and get certified, you go through the exercises, which we know you're able to do. You're then going to get that certification badge, and we're going to give you clients. The cool thing is that we know a lot of dentists and doctors and real estate agents and attorneys, and they are dying for help. We have 100,000 small businesses that would love to hire you. So this is not just a course. You're going to get certified. It's better than a college degree.
It's better.
And we're going to give you those clients. But you have to qualify and go through the work. There is no extra thing that you need to pay for. There is no upsell. This is all part of this FFM program, and Jake and I are super happy that you were here. And the difference of whether you succeed or not is actually just one thing.
Yeah, and we want to be able to make an actual difference and teach you guys valuable skills so that you can make money. Yes, the program's $20, but that's not going to change my standard of living. That's not going to change my life. We actually just want people who are committed and who are serious about becoming successful and becoming financially free. And we want to be able to make a difference in the world. So that's why we're doing this. So take it seriously, because if you do, you're going to see results.
And even if starting an agency isn't your end goal, it's nice when you're able to make money. Because when you learn how to do business deals and contracts and the meetings that you have, you're able to then turn that into your brand deals, organize and hire other people for whatever other things that you need. But as an entrepreneur, you need to make money to then be able to invest and hire other people too. So we're so glad you're here. Welcome everybody, and greetings. This is my home studio, and today we get the pleasure of going through the Facebook Marketing Masterclass. We're going to cover 6 different modules that together comprise something that we call the Social Amplification Engine. What we're going to do is go through the strategy first, so you understand how these components fit together. Then we're going to go into the tactics on how you actually build your ads for success using case studies, using materials that Facebook's given us on how we do ads the right way, so that when you're doing ads, it's not going to be something where your campaigns burn out after a couple weeks, or you find that you constantly have to change because Facebook's making changes. This framework that we're teaching you today is going to be valid in 2020. It's going to be valid in 2025. We've done ads for the last 13 years, starting when Facebook first launched their ad platform back in early 2007, if you can believe that or not. May 2007 is when they launched the F8 platform. So I'm excited today. We're going to go through these exercises, the strategy, the tactics, and then I'm going to go to my laptop and I'm going to show you how to actually do this on your desktop, and I'm going to show you how to do it on your phone as well. So you ready to begin? I'm Dennis Yu. I'm your instructor. I've been doing Facebook ads since the beginning. I've had several arguments, if you could call them that, with Mark Zuckerberg about Facebook ads, and we've spent $1 billion on Facebook ads, whether it's for local retail or it's large enterprise B2B companies or it's white labeled for other brands. We have seen pretty much every kind of mistake that you can make on Facebook, and therefore all the ways to be able to get around them. And I want to share with you not what we've heard from other people, but what we know actually works, because we've trained thousands of people through this framework that you're going to get, and it's all right here. So if we're not here together in Boston, at least you can download some of these items that we're talking about. You have access to the guide, which is a workbook that you could print and actually read, or you have access to the videos and the presentation version, which is what you're getting right here. So there's 6 phases that you will care about, and we call this the Social Amplification Engine. And it's an engine because you're taking social ingredients, meaning video and things that your employees and your customers and your clients and stakeholders have to say, and you're running them through this engine and using Facebook as an amplifier, primarily on the advertising side, to be able to throw fuel on the fire. So we think of it as if something is working well because you have a good product or service, because customers love you, because you get reviews, and you have a process to collect these things, because the benefits that your product or service has are very clear, and you're able to demonstrate that with a number of videos that can then resonate across all of Facebook's properties. Then Facebook's going to do the work for you. You're going to find that what works for you organically is the same algorithm that works for you on the paid side. And we start with plumbing. Plumbing is all the tracking. A lot of people want to skip plumbing and they want to go straight to all the targeting or straight to all the different kinds of optimization and cool bells and whistles that you can do. But if you skip plumbing, you are skipping all the measurement that is necessary to make sure that everything is working, that you're feeding the conversions in properly, the leads, the remarketing pixels, all these other components. So we're going to talk about each of these phases one at a time. There's a checklist at the end of each one so that you can go in and verify it and go to the workbook version of this course and be able to get those things done. And if you're watching this, say months after we recorded it, you can still ask questions. I'm still here. Our team still wants to make sure that you are getting through these items and not getting stuck. So you can always contact me via LinkedIn, or you could message operations@blitzmetrics.com and we'll help you out. Plumbing is the first stage. The necessary data then allows you to figure out how you're doing against your goals. If you don't know what your cost per lead, cost per sale, cost per view, cost per landing page visit needs to be, then it really doesn't matter what kind of data you've collected in plumbing. If you have your goals set, and most businesses of all sizes aren't really that clear. I mean, they know what their revenue and ROAS is, but they haven't really backed it all the way up in the funnel. If you don't have that, then you can't figure out what kind of content is going to be next, because you're going to have content that supports each of the 3 stages in the funnel, which we call awareness, consideration, and conversion. More on that when we get into that phase. Targeting is where people, when they're new to Facebook ads, typically spend the most time because it's the sexiest, because you can go to all these different kinds of combinations. I'm going to show you, based on what Facebook has done with their engine, that you really don't need to spend much time in targeting at all. In fact, the content that you're producing is actually going to drive the targeting because of how long people are engaging with your content, which sends a signal into the system, which then drives remarketing sequences. So we're going to build lots and lots of lightweight touches. You're going to do it across all your different channels, off of email, web, Google traffic, Facebook traffic, Instagram. You're going to remarket against all these different kinds of traffic. And that's really the targeting that you're going to be running at your 3 stages of the funnel. And we'll show you how to do that and give you a checklist for that as well. Amplification is where you're running ads. Now, we call it amplification instead of advertising because we think of paying Facebook to be able to distribute your content as like social postage. We want to get the message out there, but it's not only selling. We want to pay to be able to build those relationships at the top and middle of the funnel to then be able to drive those sales later and let Facebook remarket all the way down. The number one mistake we see in people doing Facebook ads is they take a cold audience straight to a conversion. Then all the penalties happen. Your high CPMs, your high cost per click, your high conversion costs, all those because you have negative feedback that jacks up your base CPM, how much you're paying per 1,000 impressions. I'm going to show you how to diagnose that as well. Optimization, let's say you've got your campaigns that are running. You've gone through these stages here, hooray, you've got a big sale, you have a product launch, you're trying to drive phone calls, whatever it might be. And you find that maybe the cost per sale or cost per lead is higher than you want. How do you figure out what the issue is? Is it because of something that happened with the way you set up your ads? Is it the targeting is wrong? Did you have the wrong kind of content? Did you not sequence it properly? Are your goals unrealistic? Maybe it's a startup and you have some crazy expectations. Or maybe it's some other combination here due to seasonality or competitors or too many ads are disapproved, or maybe your tracking was set up wrong. We see that happen all the time where a client says, hey, we're showing our cost per lead is now double. And we come in and say, well, that's because you set up this new landing page and the pixel's not there. So you actually are missing out on all those conversions. So let's go through these 6 phases. Let's start with the plumbing. And by the way, we have the fundamental and we have the advanced options. If this is your first foray into Facebook advertising, and maybe you haven't done much in digital, maybe you are a marketing manager and somebody said, go take that course on Facebook ads and go learn how to do Google ads and learn how to do LinkedIn ads and all that. Just start with the fundamental items and then you can move to the advanced items as you want to. And every one of these items here, we have training for you. So don't worry if I use some gobbledygook lingo that you haven't heard before. I'm an engineer, so you can blame me for that. I built the analytics at Yahoo 20 years ago. So you might hear me come at it from kind of a search engine engineer point of view, but every one of these tasks are something that you can do. You do not have to be technical, and they are discrete and easy to do step by step, just like cooking or painting by the numbers or what have you. And if you want to just outsource it to someone on Fiverr, an engineer on your team, someone else, you could do that as well. So don't feel that you have to do everything here. You can pick the ones that you want to do, but just understand how these 6 phases fit together. Okay, now let's talk about overall what we're trying to do from a strategy standpoint. So if you break down your business into the components of the customer relationship, from awareness to consideration to conversion, those are the same phases that Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Twitter, Quora, Pinterest, all of these networks use the exact same words at these 3 stages of the funnel. Isn't that kind of cool? Why would they use the same 3 stages? Why would they call them the same thing? It's because the goals that you can set at each stage are the same no matter what digital platform. Because if it's digital, if it's on the phone, if it's on an email, if it's SMS, if it's on a website, you deal with the same mechanics of needing to show them something, build an impression initially that then drives into someone coming to your website or your app or some deeper version of where you pull them off of a native platform, like natively on Facebook, then you pull them onto your platform, right? You pull them into email, you pull them into a property that you own, and then down into a conversion. So all networks have to respect that same flow of how customers convert, regardless of what it is that you sell, because eventually they need to buy. Eventually you need to have a conversation with them. Eventually they need to fill out a form. So when you stage people through awareness, consideration, and conversion, which is the same thing as why, how, and what, and know, like, and trust, and top, middle, and bottom of the funnel, then it's easy to diagnose where you are. So you can take a pause right here. You can press pause on this video and fill out this worksheet. What are your current results? What is your current cost per, and how many are you getting? You may find that down here at the bottom of the funnel, you're getting a great cost per lead, cost per sale, but you're not getting as many. Or maybe at the top of the funnel, you're getting a lot of video views, you're getting a lot of rankings because of the SEO efforts that you have, but maybe your cost isn't very good, or maybe one is high or not the other. And so it's quantity, quality. Figure out where the breakage is, or where you have an issue, where there's constriction in your funnel. And that'll tell you where, from a Facebook standpoint, you should be putting in the most effort, because Facebook is really a reflection of your overall business. Don't think of Facebook as like a separate channel. Facebook wants you to take all the goals, content, and targeting you have, lay it into the structure, and figure out what do we need to do to be able to drive where it needs to be. So what is your cost per video view? What is your cost per lead? What is your cost per sale or ROAS need to be? How much of them do you need, which is volume? And then let's figure out where that gap is. And then you can do this snapshot report every month. You can automate it. You can have someone else on your team do it and figure out, based on the efforts of what you've done in this process, the social amplification engine, where do I need to prioritize my efforts next? And a lot of folks, they put together some beautiful plan, some beautiful document that has all these charts in it, but it shows these flow charts, or it shows graphs of how much money they're spending and who's doing what, like these charts, right? This is performance data for the Golden State Warriors. This is how much revenue we were driving them on Facebook and Google. Unless you have a benchmark of where you're going to be at different stages in the funnel, you really don't know where you are, and you really don't know when there's a change. Is it an externality? Is it a campaign thing? Is it someone flooding on the campaign? So let's get these items in place. Let's take an inventory of the content that you have. See, if you're going to jump in and do Facebook ads, I would ask you, where's your content library? Do you have it organized by videos? Do you have it organized by topic, by who's saying it, by the product, by geography? A lot of folks don't even have that. So they have to solve that initial content organization problem before they even move into trying to run Facebook ads the right way. And then targeting. Do you know who your customer is? What do they like? What do they do? Who else do they like as competitors? What are aspects or situations that would identify them based on what they search for on Google? What kind of pain do they have? So get all those goals, content, and targeting items together, and then you can move into all the steps necessary to set up your digital plumbing. Now, we call it digital plumbing because it's all the items necessary to put all your data together. So when you run Facebook ads or Facebook organic, or you put stories on Instagram, which is part of Facebook, that's throwing off data. That's building relationships that will then cause people to come back to you and be more likely to search on Google, be more likely to click on your website, be more likely to open your email, be more likely to visit your store if your store is open, be more likely to pick up the phone. And so what we find, ironically, is that the best Facebook efforts actually cause a cross-channel impact. So the irony, or the Schrodinger's cat, if you're a physics person, is that if you set up your Facebook properly in Business Manager, you tie in your Google ads and your Google Analytics, and you put in your Google Tag Manager, which sounds like a scary thing, but it's not as scary as it sounds. You put all this in place, then you can measure how Facebook fits into your overall mix, because the majority of your sales, I bet you, are not going to come through Facebook directly. They're going to influence another channel like email. Facebook is a great top and mid-funnel assist that helps people be aware of you, builds trust in what you have to sell, and then the sale will occur through your CRM, through your point of sale, through email, through another channel. Facebook may measure the assist value in the way they do conversion attribution, but don't make the common mistake of running a few Facebook campaigns and then saying it didn't work. And really, it's like planting seeds, and you plant the seeds in the soil, and then 5 minutes later you pull it up, say, hey, where's my vegetables? Well, you got to plant. You're not just blindly hoping either, but you have to plant, and you have to be able to measure so that when you do something in, let's let's say June, you may get sales in July or August, and you have to be able to measure how long that is. A lot of that's called delayed attribution. Some of it is also called multi-channel funnels, like you'll see on Google. But the key is you've got to have those right expectations, and you still have to be able to measure sales that don't come right away. Like if it's Google and it's very intent oriented, you can measure how many sales you get right then because someone's typing in broken toilet, maybe you're a plumber, or they're typing in chiropractor, like whatever it is that they're looking for. But understand that because we're running through these stages of the funnel, it may take longer for that sale to occur. And you have to be able to measure what the stepwise value is here. When we have Google Tag Manager set up, and you might wonder, well, what does this have to do with Facebook ads? It's everything to do with Facebook ads because Facebook is the best remarketing, retargeting platform that we see out there. You're going to run your Google and Facebook retargeting off of the exact same event triggers, off of the exact same custom audiences. Probably even want to name them the same way. That way you don't screw it up, because retargeting is you're following people around. If they came to your site and then they left, well, you want to follow them around with the same logic, the same messaging on Google and Facebook. If they are in that email list, you want to then follow them around on Google and Facebook with the same logic, right? Because remarketing is remarketing. It's not that it's Google or Facebook. It's not that it's going into Instagram and YouTube, which is also Facebook and Google. It's that when someone came to your site, or someone just came into your email list, or someone just bought something, or someone watched a video on Facebook, you want to immediately capture that and be able to sequence the next message. And you want to use the retargeting platform to sequence that very next message. So your plumbing is how you put all of that together, so your analytics and your advertising are actually one and the same. And this is something that blows people's minds because they think, wait, I thought analytics was just pixels and retargeting. Like, I didn't realize that advertising and analytics are really the same thing. It's the same data I need, A, to run the ads, and B, to measure and tune the performance. It's one and the other. You can't be good at Facebook ads and not be a data person. And similarly, you can't claim that you're a digital analytics person and you don't understand where the data is coming out of Facebook, because there's more data in Facebook advertising than there is just in the organic side, right? And people might be like, I wonder if that's a coincidence. It's not. Where do you think there's more data? Like on Google. Do you think there's more data in Google ads in their platform, or more data that you might see inside Google Analytics? I'll tell you what, Google Analytics, look at direct none, look at not provided, look at all those ways they hide data from you, and you tell me where they're going to give you more data. They don't do not provided, do they? That hiding the keywords, they don't do that in Google ads, do they? See, Facebook, same thing, way more data on the paid side. So that's why you're going to bring all this stuff together. Let's talk about content production. This is one of the most common errors that we see in how people are producing content. They think that content is just something you produce on a calendar. And so you have a content calendar. And here's our Valentine's Day sale, our Christmas and spring and Black Friday. And so people get into a cadence where every month they're just producing more content and they just move to the next month. April, now it's May, and they never go back and look at what happens before. And that's the model of a news publishing house, because every day there has to be news. In the newspaper, there has to be a fire, there has to be the stock market, there has to be a murder, there has to be something. And we want to get away from doing that unless you actually are a publisher, unless you make money off of publishing content. But if you're selling a product or service and you're not a newspaper, publisher, magazine, then move to a topic wheel. Topic wheel is evergreen content. It's content that lives forever. It's stories. It's what customers are saying. It's sharing knowledge. It is talking about the product. And unless your product changes all the time, you're going to find the topic wheel is a more powerful way to produce content than via a content calendar. You could use a content calendar to schedule how you're producing content in the topic wheel, but be careful about content that expires, because it's the Valentine's Day sale. Well, after Valentine's Day, you can't run that same ad anymore, right? And content that you can reuse, because that's what you're going to amplify as an engine. That's going to give Facebook more data, more time to be able to optimize. Because if you have a campaign that ends on a particular date, if the content expires on a particular date, then you've run out of room. I love the idea, as you'll learn here, through the $1 a day approach. When you find a winner, you can just keep putting more money on it. Initially $1 a day for 7 days, that's $7. $30 for 30 days, which is still $1 a day. $1,000 for a month. $10,000 for 3 months. $1.3 million like we did for Infusionsoft over a course of a few months. And you just keep putting more and more money on your winners instead of having to come up with new content. And also related to expiring content is spontaneous content. Spontaneous content is, here's some news that just happened and we're reacting to it. Here's a sports score. Here's what we think about something. And a lot of people that do blogging, that's kind of what happens. CEO has an idea and you have to write up a blog post about something, right? But don't put more than 20% of your time into this content calendar or spontaneous content. Try to put it all into the topic wheel. This one shift for you is going to mean everything for your Facebook ads. Like this one thing. You could learn all the crazy stuff inside Ads Manager. This one thing, building the topic wheel. You won't have to keep doing this work over and over again, which is kind of like what Sisyphus is, right? Sisyphus keeps, the Greek myth, he keeps rolling the ball ball up the hill, and every day the ball falls down on him. He's got to roll back up the hill again. So think about that. So in plumbing, make sure everything is part of Business Manager. We see a lot of people get their ad accounts disapproved. They lose access. They give access to an agency. They kick out that agency. They want to put another agency in, but then they lose track, or they didn't have the right permissions. They didn't own the account. They don't know the difference between a Business Manager versus a Facebook ad account versus a page versus a profile. Make sure you get everything inside Business Manager. You will thank me for that, especially if you have more than one person involved, or you have more than one page, or you have more than one ad account. And we like to recommend having a backup ad account, because you never know. Facebook is auto disapproving stuff and they make mistakes. And we like to have a backup Business Manager. And for every Business Manager, you want to have at least one admin. Never have just one admin, because if that admin loses it, then no one can get in, you get locked out. Then you go to Facebook and they won't give it to you because they'll say, it's not yours. Then you come to me and I say, I can't do anything because it's a legal issue. Facebook legally can't give it to you. At the same time, don't have 20 admins. Then you have no idea what's going on and anyone can screw you over and whatever. Even though you can look at account history, Facebook does let you see account history on what changes were made by who, that kind of thing, right? So make sure Business Manager's there. Tie in these other options like Google's My Client Center. Make sure that you own all the assets. If you're using an agency, make sure it's in your name. By the way, once you put something in a Business Manager, you cannot move that ad account out. Once it's owned by an agency, for example, or if the ad account is in an agency's name, you're never going to get those custom audiences back. And they're probably not going to tell you. So make sure it's your ad account, therefore it's your pixel, and make sure the primary owner is inside your Business Manager. You can still share with the partner. You can still share access via Business Manager, but just don't screw that up, because that's a key part of plumbing. Don't worry about instant articles. Don't worry about AMP. Just make sure you have a tag manager there. And you might even say, well, I only have Google Analytics and the Facebook pixel because you said remarketing is so important, like website custom audiences. Yes, but as you want to run remarketing off of other networks, you're going to be glad that you had the tag manager in place. Plus, if you use other websites, if you have landing pages on microsites, then you're going to want to make sure it's all living inside the same tag manager. Just because, if your webmasters make a change and then they forget to include the tags, then you have to audit every one of the pages to make sure the tags are there. It just becomes a nightmare. And we like to audit plumbing monthly anyway. You might think, oh, well, my plumbing's already in place. I hear this all the time. Clients will say, oh yeah, we already have all the plumbing. And then we come in and look and we find stuff that's broken. It's like maintenance of your car. You can't just buy the car and never change the oil. Like, things change. Okay. Here's another way to look at the plumbing. Go through the access checklist so that you have all the different items that are in your control. Make sure that you haven't lost any of these logins, including things like point of sale, so you can track conversions. Define the events in Google Tag Manager, and not just, you might say, oh, but I already have it defined in Google Analytics. I already have the conversion event defined in Facebook ads. You want to define it in Google Tag Manager and define in all the other places, because we want the data to be able to sync inside Google Analytics, inside the Facebook ads, inside the Google ads. A lot of people say, oh, I ran the Facebook ads and the numbers are different than the point of sale or Google Analytics. Well, if you set this up properly, you'll be able to troubleshoot what those kinds of differences are. Okay, so that's plumbing. I want you to make sure you have that in place, or as best you can, before you move to this next stage of goals. And I won't be offended if you press pause. See, a lot of people, when they think about goals, they have an overall goal. They have one goal. And the goal is, I need to generate this much money. And the goal is, I need to spend less than this amount because that's my budget. But they often don't break the goals into different components. Now, if you have only one goal, then you're going to end up with this horrible situation where all the money is held accountable only to the conversion bottom part of the funnel, right? And that doesn't allow you to build a remarketing audience, like a warm audience of video views, or putting interesting content out there, or engaging or entertaining. A lot of people say that brand stuff, that's like Super Bowl, Coca-Cola, polar bear stuff. That's just for big companies that are putting branding out there, that are just willing to just throw money out there just because they want to look big or get lots of followers. That's not it at all. What we want to do is warm people up so they understand who we are. So they understand what our products do. They understand why people buy our stuff. They understand the expertise that we have. They understand that we're a trustworthy brand. They get a sense of who our customers are and what they're doing. These are all kinds of things that are necessary to build a warm audience, so someone's heard of you before, to then be able to come in and remarket. So if your plumbing's set, you're going to be able to do that kind of remarketing. Now, often you might have an overall goal, and that's, I need to generate this many leads, or this many sales, or this much in store visits, but you haven't broken it down to a more specific numerical goal. Like, well, of the people that buy, what's my cost per lead need to be for that to be most effective, right? And therefore, what's my cost per email? Or what's my cost per video view? I need to take my conversions conversions and step them back up through these stages in the funnel. If I do that, then I can see where things are broken at different stages along the way in the 3-stage funnel of awareness, consideration, and conversion. We recommend that you choose a couple goals. Don't choose 17 goals. We see a lot of people choosing way too many goals, and it becomes kind of a disaster because then you have too many campaigns, too many ad sets, too many creatives, and even the campaigns that are spending $100,000 a day, we see some folks that are doing that, they don't even have enough data to figure out what's working or not. So account simplification means choose just a couple goals. I would choose, in general, if you're not sure what to choose, I would choose video views at the top of the funnel, as in a through play video view, not a 3-second view, a through play, which is 15 seconds or more. Try to get that at 2 cents, 3 cents right now, because it's pretty cheap with a lot of people online, and then drive that to cost per lead, whatever that is that you see through email or through search. Try to get something similar on Facebook, maybe slightly more because Facebook tends to be more top of the funnel. There are 6 phases in analytics, and this is something that almost everyone gets wrong. If you don't get this right, then all your numbers are not going to make sense. And let me tell you why. Now, you might think something as simple as like, what's your cost per sale? Or what's your ROAS, revenue on ad spend, which is how much revenue divided by what you spent, which is a multiple, right? Maybe you say, oh, I need a 5 ROAS. I spend $1, I need $5 back. Okay, well, it's not that easy because a conversion's not a conversion. Well, what do you mean a conversion is not a conversion? Well, if there was an assist involved, what if Facebook drove the initial touch, but then Google closed the deal? What if there were no other touches and Facebook was the only touch? What if there were 3 different touches and they came to the site multiple times and they gave you the email and then you remarketed from Facebook and drove a sale? So you have to be able to look at what the overlap is and how the different channels are working together. And in modern marketing, because anyone can go onto their phone and they can do research, you're going to have a multi-touch environment. It used to be, do you remember 6 touches? People said it takes 6 touches to drive a sale. We're looking more at 15 touches, sometimes 20 touches. And these are items that are $20, $30. These are things that people typically wouldn't research. You know, you could go to Amazon and normally you would just click on a couple things, but you know, I bought a new microphone and I spent 3 hours looking at 20, 30 different brands and tons of touches, right? And then I selected the one I want. So there's more and more touches, and you should know that consumers do that, especially with more people being online. When you know what the overlap is, you can start to build triggers. Triggers are if someone does this, then you're going to show them this next message, or they come to the site and they don't buy in the next week, or they open an email, or they didn't open an email, or they're a mom and they didn't watch the video, or they did or didn't do different things. You can start to sequence these, and these are triggers. And email is like the classic example of triggers, like an autoresponder. You know, email 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are all triggers. And as you build triggers together, you have sequences. Those sequences can go across channels. As they go across channels and you build enough volume, you move to lift testing. Lift testing is where you say, you know what, I'm going to take my email list and I'm going to say half of them randomly I'm going to put in this bucket and half randomly in this bucket. And this half I'm going to call the test, and I'm going to hit them with Facebook ads as an email remarketing audience. And this half I'm going to hold back, which is called control. I'm going to say, I'm going to send out an email and expose this group to Facebook ads, and this one they don't, and because it's randomized, you know, just like when drug companies do random experiments, double blind. Then I want to see of those people that saw the Facebook ad, are they more or less likely to open the email? Were they more or less likely to buy through the email? And then you're measuring what the true incremental lift is. You're not looking at the number that Google or Facebook says the sales were for that channel or for that campaign or for that UTM parameter. You're saying, how much extra revenue or leads or sales did I drive off of an incremental dollar? Right? And true marketing that's not wasteful marketing is doing that. It's saying, if I spent $1, how much more incremental revenue did I do? Let's say, for example, I run a Christmas tree farm and I see that my sales from November to December went like that. Can I claim that it's because of my marketing from November to December? No, it's seasonality, because people are buying Christmas trees in December. Or, you know, I look at January. Let's say you started as a marketing manager for the Christmas tree farm in January and you're running Facebook ads and the boss says, hey, your sales sucked in January. You know, you must suck because you started in January. Like, no. That's seasonality. And you want to look at what's the difference between that same period last year versus this year. That's the same thing as a lift test. You're comparing period over period or a group over a group. Put all that together, that's media mix modeling. And you can go into the training that we have here, go to the guide and click on the video. And I think you'll find that when you have your plumbing in place and you're able to then move to goals, that you're going to really discover where the value is in Facebook. And you're going to find it's probably mid-funnel, and things that look like from a last click standpoint were not profitable are actually very profitable. You could be hitting a home run and not even realizing it. So that's the initial understanding of what goals are. We're going to go into the analytics a little bit later, and you're going to see what that actually looks like and which numbers you need to look at where. Now, If you've got the goals that are set and you know what your cost per needs to be, cost per lead, cost per sale, and you have that same target across Facebook, Google, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, then it's very easy to be able to reallocate budget because you're going to want to put it wherever you're getting the highest marginal return. A lot of companies, they just say, okay, well, here's our budget for 2020. It's this much per channel. And then the goal is to try to spend exactly that amount. If you're a performance company, then you should go to your boss, or maybe you are the boss, and then you give your people permission to say, hey, this is the budget that we started with, but we reserve the right to be able to move stuff around because if we find, for example, that Facebook's not doing as well, that we want to shift it into YouTube or shift it to another channel. We find right now that the cost of Facebook traffic is so cheap. So if you're watching this still in 2020, the cost of the Facebook traffic, because so many people are spending time online, is so good that campaigns that used to be unprofitable are now super profitable because the cost is half of what it used to be, especially if you can do things like 15-second videos and do arbitrage like Instagram stories, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The other part of goals is not just the numeric side, but the right brain. It's the creative side, right? And that is, what is the mission and meaning that you have? Why do people buy from you? There's the numbers you have to hit from a goal standpoint, but then there's the mission, the goal of the company. And that's where you blend the creative side with the mechanical optimization side. If you are able to really nail the creative and the heart and the emotional and the why side of the customers that buy, which is tougher for people that do a lot of PPC, but maybe content people, especially video oriented people, storytellers, they understand the why of the customer, then you are doubly dangerous because you're able to balance both sides of that. So when we get to the content phase, you're going to see why that's so important and why the mission and the meaning and the really powerful content is what drives the performance in terms of your cost per lead, cost per sale, and all that. And down here at the bottom of the funnel in the orange, Facebook calls this a causal conversion. Now, a causal conversion with content is when it actually moves people's decision making to prefer your product or service. So it's not just trying to hit them with the sale. It's not just buy my stuff right now. It's not just trying to yell at them and get their attention and have creatives that blink at them and flash and all that. It's about getting them to fundamentally change their perception and their behavior and attitude towards your company. And that's really where the creative side comes in. So if we see that we're getting a $4 CPM versus what used to be the average on Facebook, cost per 1,000 impressions CPM, average used to be $8. But if for some reason we're down at $4, well, why is that? It's because of our engagement, probably. It's because our negative feedback is lower than our positive feedback. It's because our click-through rate is higher. It's because we're not getting a lot of clickbacks. It's because there's signs that Facebook is using to determine whether people are having a good experience, which always goes back to the content, right? It's kind of neat. You could look at any one of these things here. What's my cost per click? Well, usually the thing that has the best cost per click, especially if you're using video creative, is the one that packs the most emotional content. It's kind of like looking at the code in the matrix. If you can see the woman in the red dress, that means you understand the creative side and you can go beyond just the numbers. Obviously, we have to hit the numbers. We love getting 2-cent through plays. We love doing offer claims. We love people registering. Well, maybe not events in 2020, but we love to be able to hit these different targets. Of course, your cost per lead, your cost per call, your cost per message is going to be different depending on the industry you're in and the number of stages in the funnel that you have. But if you're a pro and you're understanding what is causing things to win or not win, it's always going to go back to the content. The creative is where it's at. Increasingly, the creative is what differentiates a winning Facebook campaign versus one that's not. If you are a senior marketing manager, if you're a director, you're a VP, you're going to hold your Facebook accountable to profit, right? It's one thing to be able to get more impressions. That's easy. It's another thing to even generate more leads. You just say, I want leads. You run lead campaigns, tweak the creative a little bit and say, I win. But ultimately, if you're reporting up in a senior role to the CMO, or you are the CMO and you have to report that to the business owner, to the CFO, then you have to demonstrate that the money you're spending is generating a profit, right? It has to be something on the balance sheet because they don't care how many clicks you got. They don't care what your ranking is in SEO. They care, did you generate more profit? So ultimately, you are holding the levers of revenue and cost to be able to drive more in terms of sales. And you should be able to project it. This is when you know you got your stuff in gear. You should be able to project what would happen if the boss came to you and said, hey, Sally, if we doubled your budget, what could you do? Where would you allocate it? How would you spend the money? What can you project what would happen? And you should be able to say, well, based on that, I can, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I can triple our revenue. I can do whatever it is. Or we're at the top of the curve. We're at decreasing marginal returns because that's the size of the market, or, whatever it might be. You should be able to tell what's going on. In the same way, you should be able to tell whether your campaigns are limited in a certain way. A lot of people don't even know that Facebook has this thing called automated rules. And this is all part of goals still, right? You can set rules that will turn campaigns on and off based on thresholds. You know how many people go in every day into their Facebook ad account and they look to see what's gone up or down? And that's good. You can go in there just to analyze and see what's going on. But did you know you can set up automated rules to automatically do that for you? Automatically put more money on campaigns that are winning. Automatically shut off things when it's looking bad in a certain way. Automatically change the bid, right? But don't think that means, oh, well, I'll just go ahead and set up the automated rules and I'll never need to look at this stuff again. The reason why you want to set up automated rules, but also look at campaigns is twofold. One is when you look at the data, especially organically on things that you're boosting, for example, or just analyzing, well, why did this video perform better than that video? Or how come dynamic ads with these images in the catalog work better than these other ones? That kind of learning only happens just with immersion in the data, right? Automation pulls you away from being able to do that. And then number two is sometimes you screw up in the automation and sometimes you need to catch things that are messed up. Just a couple of days ago, a friend of mine, I won't name him, he thought he was bidding a dollar a day because he was using the dollar a day technique. And actually he was spending $100 a day and he didn't catch that thing for quite some time, right? And he came to me saying, oh, Facebook makes it really hard because, I'm sure I put in 1.00 as my budget. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you put in 100 because I've done that to myself many times. See, automated rules will catch stuff like that. Automated rules, you can set up these different triggers to say, if any one of these things is above or below a certain threshold, send me an email, which is just an alert, or actually do something where it's an automated action. You don't have to make it take the automated action. You can just have it send you an email. And I'd love to set up automated rules where I just have it send me an email if any one of these things happens. And then if I set the threshold to find that I'm getting too many emails, so you just kind of like test it initially just to see kind of what's going on. Okay, so that is goals. And if you have your plumbing and goals set up properly, then content falls in naturally because your goal at these different stages of the funnel for awareness, consideration, and conversion is to move people from why to how to what. And a lot of us are not producing as much video or as much content or as many blog posts or as much whatever it is because that's just how it is. I've never met a marketer that says, oh, yeah, I've got way more content than I need. I've got a way bigger video team that I've got extra video people. Why don't, I'll just give them to you. I never hear that because there's just not enough and not enough budget, not enough people, not enough time to get all these things. And, things like editing video, which is really where the bulk of the content is now. If you're not using video, I'm going to show you why you are behind and all the stuff that Facebook has shown why that's necessary. Go through this checklist, understand how to make why videos. If you work at a larger company and maybe you have an ad agency and you have brand guidelines and you have a creative agency and you have these other people and maybe it's not you. If you're a small business and you're a business owner, then you need to do all these things. If you're an agency, you need to do these things for your agency to get more clients, and you need to help your clients do this as well. But you're going to need lots of little videos. There are longer pieces that are like a 3-minute why video. There's 1-minute videos that are compilations of what consumers are producing. I'm going to show you inside Ads Manager how Facebook makes all of this possible. Crazy. They have to build in these editing tools into the Ads Manager because they just need to make it easy enough, even for enterprise brands. And then when you have content that's tied to different personas because you're solving different problems for different demographics and psychographics, then you're starting to create really nice combinations. A lot of people, in Facebook ads, they just keep cloning campaigns and they make lots and lots of targets. But if you're sending the same content to all these different people, you really need to put them all inside the same campaign or inside a number of ad groups that sit inside one campaign, and then CBO, campaign budget optimization, optimizes that for you anyway. So the issue is not, most people screw up because they make too many ads when really they don't have the diversity of content to be able to justify having that many ads. So it's an ad set or ad group because it's based on the ad, not based on the targeting. So in order to have more complex campaigns, you need more content and you need more winning content, not just like 10 different variations of the same image where you just like change the logo or background or like that. Those are all the same. Don't do that, right? Simpler campaigns, just a few creatives, And then as you learn, every couple weeks you cycle in new creatives, not like here's 50 creatives, test them all at once. Like that'll choke, because you know Facebook, if you do that to them, they'll just choose one winner and then nothing else will really get any traffic, right? And if you're with me and you're an experienced Facebook advertiser, you know that's the case. You load up 10 things, like one of them will just, for some reason, will just win and suck all the budget away from everyone else, from all the other ads that are competing or the other ad sets that are competing. That's just kind of what happens. So we like to iterate, just a couple pieces of content at a time, learn from it, another piece of content, learn from it, and just kind of trickle it in. Not, hey, our creative agency gives us this big batch of content once a quarter and that's all we get every quarter. And then you starve until the next quarter. That's not how you optimize. That's not how you learn. That's not how the system works, right? So you're going to do lots of these 1-minute videos. I'm going to show you how to organize them in the right way through something called the topic wheel. So when we think strategically about your content, what is the story of your brand? And don't say that we provide the best service to the best customers because we care the most at the lowest price. Like that's not authentic or believable. It needs to be like a founder story. It needs to be stories from different customers, ideally told by those customers. It needs to be something authoritative, like you've been in the news or other people that are talking about you. And it's these personal stories of the people. You hear people talk about storytelling, right? And being authentic. Well, guess what is necessary to be in a story for it to be a story? I know it sounds kind of obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people miss on this one. A human, a person. A story is around a person. That's why Disney and Pixar are so powerful. It's not because of the number of polygons they can render every second and they're giant server farm of rendering polygons. They really get to the detail of a couple different stories. My friend John Ushai, he ran the YouTube Creators Program and now he's at Instagram. I coached him on that and he runs product over there. And I brought him to Digital Marketer, in fact, to Traffic and Conversion Summit last year because this year's got canceled. And I put him for the keynote because he knows so much about storytelling. And one of the things he teaches is focus on the apple, not the orchard. Focus on those individual little stories. And those stories comprise the overall brand, right? You can tell when it's corporate marketing putting out this commercial, right? Everyone can spot a commercial. You need things that aren't like that. You need things that are like lots and lots of little niche pieces of content, little 15-second stories, little authentic moments, things that happen on people's cell phone. Do you have the proof of this? Don't say your product's awesome. Gather many testimonials. For example, my friend Tommy Mello is the largest garage door company in the United States. I think he did $30-something million last year. And he has his techs when they go out and they fix a garage door or they're replacing a garage door, he has them pull out their phone and says, ma'am, if you like that, if you're happy with the garage door and how I was on time and did everything the right way and I was clean, would you mind if I just collected a 15-second testimonial from you? And they're like, oh yeah, sure. And they pull out their phone and they capture that testimonial just like this, right? Or I've had other people where it'll be a dental office and the dental assistant or secretary or the front desk person will say, my boss is giving us awards for whoever can get the most reviews. Would you mind leaving me a review if you had a good experience today? And if they did, then they might also say, and what was it that led you to choose us instead of the other people? Oh, it was because I heard from so-and-so that you did a really good job on Bobby's teeth or whatever it might be. And so they're building it into their process. So maybe you're a digital marketer. Maybe you're the content marketing person and the operations people or the manufacturing or whoever's actually talking to the customer and interfacing with the customer is someone else. You're going to find that making friends with these other people is actually going to be the key to your marketing because you can write ad copy, you can do landing page copywriting and all that stuff, which is great. Still do that. But the most powerful content is video content that is from the customers themselves, that is not professionally filmed. There are certain things you want to do to get good sound and still make it good without making it look like a commercial, right? But that's where your power is going to come from. Collecting positive and negative mentions. You can go to the negative reviews and turn them around. The negative reviews are the easiest ones to turn around. They become your most positive people. It's just polarity. It's not that they're bad or good. It's that the polarity can switch, right? So get your content strategy in place. And then you're going to be able to take the setup that you have, which is the plumbing and the goals, run it into, I guess the plumbing ties to the strategy, which is your goals, content, and targeting. Your goals, content, and targeting together are the ingredients that you feed into the system, right? Plumbing is kind of like the pixels and all this custom audiences. And then you're going to run that through the engine. And the amplification and optimization is where the heavy lifting is done by Facebook. So remember, we have these 6 phases of the social amplification engine. And by the way, it's not just for leads. It's for sales of any kind. It's for any kind of performance where someone has to fill out a form or call or give you money. So these are the 6 phases. There is no way around this structure. And this structure will always be there. And if you can get it to work on Facebook, next step, maybe try LinkedIn, try Twitter. Instagram's part of Facebook, so choose all placements. That'll work for you too. Maybe you want to move into TikTok or Pinterest or Snapchat. Same framework, right? Even Snapchat and LinkedIn, they have the same plumbing with the pixel. You still have goals, content, and targeting. You're going to have the same goals in terms of cost per lead, cost per sale, ROAS, that kind of thing. And you're going to do the same kind of advertising. Maybe the data is a little bit different. Maybe the formatting is a little bit different, but it's going to be the same thing that you're going to run. And the beauty is you'll say, well, I started with Facebook and I was able to get the rest of my social advertising working, just like with search. I started with Google, I got it working. Then I moved to Bing and Yahoo and other networks, right? So this is the beauty where you get this thing right. You don't have to keep touching it every few months. You get that foundation right, then all you do, you're just pumping in more content. That's all you need from then on. My favorite thing to do is be able to boost content. And a lot of people, they'll hear their Facebook rep or their friend say, nah. People who boost posts, they don't really know what they're doing, right? Because that's just for small businesses that they're not very sophisticated. You can run custom audiences. You can run any kind of targeting on a boosted post. You can choose different objectives. You can hit different placements. You can do all the complex stuff with the exception of complex audience creation and objective stuff and analytics inside an organic boost itself, or an organic post that you boost. So if you have an influence collection process, like I told you about earlier, where you're collecting feedback and you're organizing it to your content library, ideally into the topic wheel, then you can create different versions of this content that you're then able to boost out. And from there, when you boost that post, you're going to get further collection of content. That seems kind of weird. The idea that you can run an ad and then that will generate more feedback and more customers are going to say more positive things. If you do a topic wheel, if you do a 3-stage funnel, awareness, consideration, conversion, and you're telling why stories and you're sharing expertise, people are going to respond to that. Maybe they're not going to respond to the advertising where you say it's 20% off or we have a sale or what have you. But if you have content that's top and middle of the funnel, that's usually going to generate more content. And then you can reply to them and say, wow, that is so awesome. Sarah, thank you so much. May I quote you on that? And they'll say, yeah, sure. Now you've got lightweight endorsement, implied endorsement. They've given you permission and you can feed that back into the machine and continue to boost it. So the idea of the social amplification engine is you're amplifying things that people have already said about you. Good things. And the more good things you get, the more you can pump into this engine. And then you as a marketer are not having to come up with new headlines, are not having to come up with like clever new things to say. I mean, you're still building landing pages and products and pricing and things like that, but you're not having to create a lot of the content because your customer is doing it for you. And thus the advertising that you're doing, and here where you're boosting evergreen content, is really just putting money against content that's working. And if it's evergreen, you just keep letting it run or you keep turning the budget up to be able to continue to get more out of it. And this is the thing that people seem to miss, especially on Facebook ads, because they're stuck our May content, our June content, our July content, instead of actually, I have my machine and it's working and my customers are happy and I could just take the next month off and it'll run the same. Why? Because I've got content that's evergreen and it'll continue to build. My awareness content will cycle to my consideration content, which will cycle down to the next level of remarketing, which is conversion, right? And I don't have to keep putting new things in because I've already got a batch of evergreen winners. I might start off with just 1 or 2 posts that I'm boosting. When I initially boost my why stories, I'm boosting things that are authoritative. I'm boosting things of famous customers that I have, not influencers that I'm paying to say something that's fake, but I'm paying to have social postage to distribute content that's actually interesting and worthwhile. Ideally 15-second videos or 60-second videos in 3:4, which is square-ish format, right? Or portrait, which is 9:16. Right? Not 16:9, which is landscape, 9:16, right? This is landscape and this is vertical. Well, it doesn't look vertical from here. So I'm boosting stuff. And as I find more winners that meet the standard of excellence, meaning 2-cent through play views or cost per click less than whatever my average is, or the top 10% of all my ads in terms of my CPA, then I'm going to put more money on that. And I'll start to have more and more of these boosted posts. I have more and more winners that I'm putting more and more money. And we have some folks that are spending $10,000 a day and they might say, well, there's no way this $1 a strategy you're recommending will work because we're spending $10,000 a day. Well, you watch what happens when you have one boost that's spending $1 a day and then you continue to put more money on. Now it's spending $10 a day. Now you've got another boost and you have all these boosts that are starting at $1 a day and now they're starting to spend more and more and more. Maybe you had to put in 50 or 100 different posts and boost them differently, but you'll find about 10% of the posts that you have will be winners. That's just kind of how it is. It doesn't matter whether it's professional sports or retail or e-com or B2B lead gen. It seems seems like about 10% of the posts that you boost or any kind of campaign in general just tend to win, right? You guys probably find this the same with your email subject lines. And so we need lots of content that we're putting out there to be able to drive a sale. And when you have a winner and it's evergreen and it fits in your topic wheel, which we'll show you in a moment, then it relieves the pressure that you have on trying to kill it every time, right? So here's an example of how you might organize content into why, how, and what. Let's say that you are an info product seller, like us, you're selling courses. We might start with the why. Well, why is $1 a day important? Let me tell you a story about how Bryce Clark got ripped off by Earnhardt Chevrolet, where they were gonna fix this car, but they didn't. And the general manager said, too bad. Even though Bryce had a text that said, hey, you guys promised you were going to fix my car. And Bryce said, well, my mentor, Dennis Yu, said that, I'm going to publish your text and all this and how you didn't honor your service, agreement with me. And then he's like, yeah, social media, whatever. We get all sorts of people hating on us on social media. It doesn't even matter. But we used the $1 a day technique. 2 days later, the general manager calls and says, I don't know what you did, but, the folks at Chevy Corporate are seeing your stuff because we targeted the people at Chevy, right? And, you guys need to take it down. If you take it down, then I'll pay you for the car repair that I promised I would. Like, no, you're gonna fix the car first and then we'll take care of that. So it's a story, right? For example, tell a story. The different, like how you can tell a story about why your product or service is powerful. Then you go into explaining, well, what is it? Well, you need to have your plumbing, you have your content, and here's the different components that you need, kind of like the ingredients for your recipe. And then here's how you actually do it. Right? Here's the course. Now you're going to buy the course. Let's say we sell you the $1 a day course for $1. If we tried to drive you straight in here into buying the $1 a day course, just saying, hey, buy the course, it's on sale. That wouldn't mean anything. You need to be emotionally involved or understand why this is powerful by hearing from other people that have used the $1 a day technique, that have done personal branding, that have used your products or services, right? People need to hear that to know that this product's for me. This is something that I can identify with. This is not just some stock art model where it's like, you know what, they got that thing off of Getty Images. I don't really believe that's actually one of their customers, right? How many times you go to like a B2B site and you see like one person of every race around the conference room, you're like, that's not real. They're just selling IT services. Why don't you feature the real people telling real stories? Interview the CEO, Zoom call him from his kitchen, whatever it might be, right? And then start sharing the knowledge on how they're doing what they're doing. And if you're an agency or if you're selling professional services or consulting, don't be afraid of putting your knowledge out there. Because if that customer, they wouldn't hire us anyway. Okay, well, that would be someone you didn't want to deal with anyway, right? So just put your knowledge out there. That will cause people to then want to buy. Think about these 3 stages of the funnel: awareness, consideration, and conversion. The same thing as why, how, and what. The same thing as know, like, and trust. Think of it as like going on a first date, the first kiss, and then maybe the proposal, or, getting on your knee and, whatever it might be, right? Deeper stages in a relationship. You would never just approach a girl and say that you've never met and say, hey, will you marry me? That would be creepy. Like, I didn't even get to know your name yet. We haven't gone on some dates yet. I need to meet your parents. Right? There's all these things that have to happen. So if that's how it is in the real world, why wouldn't it be the same thing on Facebook? Why wouldn't you drive people through these different stages? It's because most people think, most advertisers and marketers and entrepreneurs think, well, I need to get a certain ROI. And you don't realize that these are humans. I need to get a certain cost per lead. Yes, you do. And believe me, I understand that. We're not just spending money for the heck of it. So we need to separate budgets into these different stages. So yes, I need to get leads for $10. Yes, I need to drive at least this much in sales and a 5-to-1 ROAS, right? Yes, all those different performance things. But I might start out by saying, I'm going to put a third, and a third into these 3 stages. And even though I'm spending a lot of money on top and middle of the funnel, these guys are driving warmer remarketing audiences. And the improvement I see down here at the bottom more than makes up for how much I've spent at the top. How do I know this? If you spend a penny or 2 cents, right? Right now we see a bunch of folks like chiropractors are killing it right now. Sean Dill and Lacey Book of the Black Diamond Group, they've got 700 chiropractors that are telling stories and why, how, and what. And by the way, if you're not a chiropractor, it doesn't matter. It still works for you. And they're telling their why stories about how they are taking care of things under coronavirus and spending time with their kids and what they're eating and how they stay busy. And personal trainers are showing how they work out and exercises you can do if you're not at the gym, right? They're sharing how they're doing stuff. And then they'll come in and say, hey, our office is still open, limited hours. You got to call in advance. Or our restaurant still delivers the food, but you're going to have to call. Or reach out to me. I'm a dentist. I still do emergency dental. dental and I'm here for you. I can answer questions around your toothache, right? And we're building the trust through these stages. If you drive cold traffic straight to conversion, because you're like, I'm not going to waste money on these other two stages, your CPMs, your cost for that inventory is going to be something ridiculous like $20 or $30 per 1,000 impressions. And therefore, your cost is 6-7 times higher than it should be. So if you invest for somebody, theoretically Joe, let's say that's the customer, and you spent 2 cents to warm him up here and he stays for 15 seconds, and you spent another 2 cents to share some knowledge, and then another 75 cents to bring him to the website, and then it costs you $5 to drive a lead, you're still ahead of 0 straight to $10 or $30 for that lead, because the cost of the traffic, the higher up in the funnel, the cost of traffic decreases. So are you willing to pay a few cents to warm someone up over a few touches and then through remarketing hit them? Because then they already know who you are. They've already seen some of your content and you're then able to hit them with your existing sales content. A lot of people, they just keep trying to tune this, which is like tuning a pickup line. That's like going into a bar and tuning a pickup line. And you keep saying, this bar is terrible, or your pickup lines are horrible. No, don't do the pickup line. Learn to build relationships over time. And then your sales process, your landing page, your website, your form is naturally going to do a lot better because you've warmed people up. So it's not, I need to make the button bigger. And there's all kinds of landing page optimization. Yes, I get that you can do. You can make the site load faster, all those things. But don't forget that on Facebook, the number one sin is taking cold traffic and running it straight to a conversion. Do not do that. It will penalize you. You get negative feedback. Relevance score went away, of course, but they gave us 3 other things where we have the landing page quality, conversion quality, engagement quality, telling us, does Facebook believe, based on what the community's engagement with our content, is that something high, medium, or low? And that's just another way of telling that, right? Video is where it's at. You probably heard that. You're probably thinking, yeah, but how do I start with video? I don't want to hire a videographer. You don't need to hire a videographer. Well, you can hire yourself. This is your videographer right here. And you're going to take 15-second clips and 60-second clips of content that you already have, of stuff that's already been produced, of stuff that you just mine Twitter and Google and YouTube and Facebook. Get permission, of course, if someone's talking about you. It could be you were on the news. It could be you got featured in the paper. It could be one of your employees, it was their birthday, like anything, and start putting it into these 3 layers. And you might say, well, why would I put this thing here, featuring, Sally's birthday? Sally just turned 46. That has nothing to do with selling whatever it is that you sell. Yes, but what you're doing is you're doing Inception, the dream inside the dream. You saw that movie Inception. Go watch it if you haven't. And you're telling everybody we care about our employees, or you are highlighting a day in the life of one of your customers or employees, or what it's like a behind the scenes kind of thing. They're sharing their knowledge. Maybe you're like the chiropractor example, and they're sharing how they are able to treat tennis elbow. And I actually saw the video. I don't understand or care about things like tennis elbow, but I was watching this guy. He's like, hey, if you have tennis elbow, instead of pushing here, you want to take a ball, you want to roll it like this, and then here's how you do this other exercise. I'm like, that's kind of cool, right? Or my friend Dr. Mark Page, he is the owner of Arizona's Vision. He's an eye doctor, and he pulls out these giant eyeball, whatever these things are called, like you see in high school, chemistry or biology, and explain the different parts of the eyeball and what it does and what's astigmatism. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool, right? And in that how video, he's not saying, oh, come see me. Here's my phone number. We're open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. He's not saying that. He's just merely teaching. And then at the end of the video, he says, I'm Dr. Mark Page. I'm here if you have any questions. That's it. No selling, no like, oh, we offer this whole range of contact lenses and we do your prescriptions and we have the latest machines that can do all kinds of cool things. No, that's down here, right? The trouble we see with a lot of marketers is they try to jam everything into one piece of content. They try to put the why, how, and what into one video, but then it ends up being like 6 minutes long and no one watches a video for 6 minutes. Do you know what the average watch time is of video on Facebook? I know we're not together in the workshop, but let's pretend that we were sitting together at Starbucks or something. It's 6 seconds. 6 seconds. Why are people spending only 6 seconds? It's because you have to capture their attention. You have to earn it here. If people have seen your stuff here on a 15-second Instagram story, which you select through all placements on Facebook, you run your ads through Facebook, it also hits Instagram. It's the same database, right? Then you've earned the right for 60 seconds to be able to go a little bit further in another piece of content, not this content, then Facebook's going to remarket, because anyone who watches any one of these why videos, you're going to remarket. I'm going to show you how to build that audience a little bit later into this how bucket, and then you're going to remarket anyone who's seen how content, remarket down to the what. what? And now they're on your website. Now they can fill out a form. Now they've been warmed up, right? And you don't have to do a video down here. And these other items don't have to be a video, but video gives you several advantages, as I'm going to show you with some research that Facebook gave us, which is biased, but I still think it's legit because we've tested it ourselves. And video is the only medium that allows you to remarket against a particular piece of content, right? If you have video number 5 in a particular post or used in multiple posts, you can say, anyone who's watched video number 5, I want to send them video number 7. You can only do that if it's a video. If you have picture number 4, you can't say anyone who's seen picture number 4 or seen this particular post, show them this or this or this. You can't do that. You only have post engagement, which is anyone who liked, shared, or commented anything in a particular time frame. But video, you can isolate particular videos. And that is not by accident. Facebook is trying to favor video. Facebook counts when people stay and watch your video as engagement. And guess what happens when you have a higher engagement? You get a higher engagement score, which reduces your base cost of traffic. If you can double your relevance score, you cut your cost of traffic in half. Now, they don't show the relevance score anymore. It's 1 to 10, just like Google's quality score 1 to 10. But I can guarantee you that when you have higher engagement and video counts as engagement, the cost of your traffic goes way, way down. So think about what you can do in these 3 stages of the funnel. If you don't know where to start at the bottom with content that's already working, then go 1 step up into what's in your topic wheel on things that your customers would expect you to be knowledgeable about, and then all the way up into personal stories of your CEO, of customers, of other people that are working in your company. And you're going to find this works really well, because the stronger these become, the larger the remarketing audiences, especially as you're boosting for $1 a day and putting more money against winners, the more you're able to sequence down here. These audiences get bigger, then your remarketing, your bottom of funnel remarketing audiences get better. And you know your remarketing works well. Guess what? On Google, brand search, someone searches for your company's name. Someone searches for your name if you're a proprietor or owner. You know those convert really well, right? Well, the more you do here, the more this bottom of funnel remarketing pool becomes, right? The bigger that pool becomes and the more sales you're able to drive. So when you build these remarketing sequences, build from the bottom up, because you're going to first exhaust everything you can squeeze out of your remarketing audiences to then reinvest that into your mid-funnel, reinvest mid-funnel earnings back into the top of the funnel. Do not go top, middle, bottom of the funnel in your creation of the content. That's what everyone else seems to do. That is the consumer or client journey, top to the bottom. But when you're building, you're going to build bottom up, because the closer you are to the signal of a good customer, that's what you're feeding here. That's why you have plumbing in place. You're trying to feed to Facebook, not anyone who's been to the website, but your very best customers. Not just any email that you've ever collected over the years, but the ones who've spent the most, the ones that are most loyal, the ones who are most recent. And you'll create different audiences for those, because you want to send the clearest signal possible so you can do lookalike audiences up here if you're a national company. If you're a local company, like a service company, restaurant, chiropractor, real estate agent, mortgage broker, agency, then you're going to target everyone in your city. No, well, everyone in my city? No, why would I do that? Because this signal's so strong, Facebook is going to sub-target for you. Oh no, but I only serve moms that have 2 kids that are between 35 and 44. And no. That persona thing, that used to work. But when you set your objectives the right way, and we're letting remarketing do the filtering for us, your content is doing the filtering for you, because anyone that's staying for 15 seconds or more, that means they're interested. And Facebook's going to find more people who are like those people who are staying, because you're optimizing for a through play at the top of the funnel, video views. For people who are staying, you're not optimizing just to show this to as many people as you can, right? That's what people don't seem to understand. And then, here's the irony that really blows people's minds, because it seems so counterintuitive. So here at the top of the funnel, you can use your why content, which is a good first touch, high authority. This is who we are, not selling, right? Just trying to show that you're a reputable, interesting company. You have interesting people. Anyone who watches any one of these is in one remarketing bucket, last 28 days, not 365, which is the default bucket. No one remembers what happened a year ago. Not even Bill Gates, who has a photographic memory. You're going to remarket from here down to the next level of the how, but you're not going to choose conversions or leads. Oh, but why not? Down here, we want conversions. Why won't we choose conversions? Because if you're remarketing from here to here, the pool is already so small, because these people have already qualified by spending time with your content, that you want to show this to everybody, right? And so if you choose conversion as the objective, and you're not getting at least 50 conversions per ad set per week, Facebook can't do the optimization for you. So the funny thing is that if you're a national company, if you're not a national company, then you don't have this, your inventory is so small, number of people you can hit, that it doesn't matter to you. But if you are not a local company, then up here, your best audience is probably going to be a lookalike built off of this audience, the cleanest signal, not some crappy seed. Some people are like, I only need 20 people for a custom audience. Yes, that's true, but I'd like to have a couple hundred. I want the cleanest, most powerful seed. I'm going to build a 1% lookalike audience, not a 10% lookalike audience. No, but 10% is bigger. It's like, Yes, but then it's like photocopying the same thing 10 times. It's like not the same quality. I want the cleanest possible signal, a 1% lookalike audience. Maybe I'll do a demographic cut, like I'll, cut out the people 21 or under, but don't cut it down by other interests. Take a lookalike audience here and choose conversion as the objective. No, but Dennis, it's why content, it's inspirational. It's why, why would you choose conversion objective for top of funnel? Because we're not trying to convert here. Yes, but we're trying to tell the algorithm that we want people who are going to eventually convert. By the way, this is not what Facebook says, but test what Facebook says and then test what we have been doing for a long time. And then you tell me. We don't just trust everything Facebook says. Oh, by the way, if you work at Facebook and you're mad at me and you're going to report me, come at me, right? We've tested this over and over again. We're going to put out there what works, right? I know this is on the internet now. This is not like a private workshop. But if you're going to argue, show me your data and show me what's working. I'm happy to share anything that's working. I'm always happy to look at anything that Facebook has. Facebook's always coming up with new stuff. The new stuff they come out with initially is usually pretty crappy. And over time, things like lookalikes or audience network or Canvas, like all these things eventually become good. And we always test. Like maybe if it sucked initially, it's not like we're never going to look at it again. We'll test it again. We'll give it another look. But I'm telling you what works now is conversion is the objective, small lookalike audience, then retarget all the way down on video views. Or if you're not getting delivery at the middle or bottom of the funnel, then you're going to choose reach and frequency. Yep, you just want it to be served unless you're so big that you have campaigns that are hitting the 50 conversions per ad set per week. And if you're not, then those things are still in the learning phase. So when you go in and you look at the ad sets and ads and they say learning phase, that means that you probably have too many ads in there and you probably chose the wrong objective. Okay. The 3x3 grid allows us to take the best 3 that we're focusing on. It doesn't mean those are the only ads that we have running. These are the very best 3 that we have. Just like in your Google ad campaigns, you might have thousands of keywords, but there's a few keywords or key phrases that you're looking at that are driving the bulk of the revenue. And so you take stuff from this testing bucket over here, the best ones you put it over here. Okay. This 3x3 is so important. It's your greatest hits. This is the ongoing engine that's going to work for you, right? This is, you're going to find like if some of these work on Facebook, they're going to work on YouTube as well. Just change the format. YouTube, you can run a longer video. Their counting of a video view is a little bit longer. It's like 30 seconds. So there's things that you're going to do differently for a true view versus a Facebook through play, but same concept, just slightly different formatting. So if you're just getting going in video, then start with things that are fundamental. Like this is mine. I talk about a childhood memory. I talk about my first job. I talk about what I'm grateful for, like a mentor, right? And then I'm sharing knowledge. So I've been on a podcast. Maybe I'm showing how to solve a particular kind of problem. Like, oh, my ad account got disabled. What do I need to do? Well, here's what you do. Or here's something from my topic wheel. Like, here's how you build a topic wheel. It's kind of funny doing marketing about marketing, right? If you're a marketer doing marketing, that's like the hardest crowd to market to, isn't it? And then here's what you're selling. Like you can take our consulting or say you can take our training, but you can also buy one-on-one private consulting with me, or you can buy a course, or you can buy a package where we implement these things for you. But I'm not going to come in and say, hey, we have these young adults and Filipinos and stay-at-home moms that have come through our training and they're going to implement your personal brand for you, right? That's going to drive sales, make you well-known. But then you'd be like, who's this guy? And what is this package? And why would I spend $5,000 on that? Well, if you see who else we've done it for, if you see how we're doing it step by step, and we actually give you the course on how to do it and say, hey, here it is. Here's our whole course. You can go do it yourself, right? And then you'd be like, wow, that's a lot of effort. I think I might sign up for that, right? I feel that there's a lot there. And so think if you're selling a service and then you're not having to compete on price if you do this, because you're just giving away your knowledge anyway. And those people who don't value their time, let them watch your YouTube videos, let them read your blog posts, let them kick the tires of all the other stuff that you have. Even my favorite thing, make a blog post or a video recommending your competitors. I love recommending competitors because I just push all the people out there and they love it. And these are people that, they can't afford us or they're just mean. Sometimes if you're a world-class agency, you want world-class clients, right? But then they find, hey, we actually do stuff for like $200, but it's done by our young adults that are certified. So if you're a service professional, put your content out here. If you're selling a product, show how to use the product, show how you can get something done even if you don't have the product. And then people realize, oh, if I have the product, I can actually just automate it. It's like, here's how I wash my clothes without a washing machine. It's like this. Oh, but with a washing machine, then I just stick it in and put in detergent and press the button, right? You can always show a way on how to get something done or show related items or show techniques or show things where you're not overtly selling. And so we like to think of this as like a sandwich too, where the meat, remember Wendy's? Where's the beef? The grandma's? I think that was like 30 years ago, was it? Do you remember? But you're going to spend most of it here in the meat and then you're going to have a bun on top and bottom. So where you put in your effort, 10%, 80%, 10%. Meaning you have lots of how content, lots and lots of how content. You don't have to have lots and lots of different ads. I mean, you could test different variations of it, but the thing that's going to drive your topic wheel is sharing your knowledge, and that's what doesn't look like a commercial. Okay, that is the fundamental 3x3. If you're a consultant, if you're a small business, and you're just getting going on this video, tell a few stories. You can do this with your iPhone. You can do this whole thing in a matter of just an hour. If you just make a bulleted list and shoot it, point the phone at your face. Or if you don't want to put it at your face because you don't want to, then point it at someone else's face. But the key is you have to point it at someone's face. After all, we're doing this Facebook ads masterclass, and it's on Facebook. So it's called Facebook, not stock art images book. It's Facebook. They want to see your face in video. Video, your face, customers' faces in videos, how you tell the story, straight there. And we know video is key because that's the number one ingredient, right? It's like saying you want a chocolate cake and you don't have any chocolate. Well, it's going to be a problem making chocolate cake without chocolate. You want to be successful on Facebook? You need video. Yeah, we've always run these same image ads before. Yeah, well, it's not going to work as well. I guess you could go down the highway with the e-brake on and donut tire on, but you're going to need video. And I'm the last one who wants to be doing video. I don't want to be on video. I don't like to produce video. I'm an engineer, right? Software engineers don't want to be on video. I'm doing it because I've realized there's no choice and I've been forced to be in front of the camera, right? Even though I'd rather put a model reading words on a teleprompter instead of me, but I have to practice what we preach. And you do too. You got to overcome that fear of video. You don't need a professional videographer. We're in a fancy studio here, but you don't need that, right? How do you know if video is working? Are they staying to watch? A third of people on the average video stay for 3 seconds to watch the video. And then a lot of those are old people that can't scroll. So they got counted as a video view. So those didn't even really count. And then, we want to get 50%. And then we want 50% to go from 3 seconds to 10 seconds, or actually 3 seconds to 15 seconds, which is called a through play. So if we can get 25%, right? 50% times 50% is a quarter, 25%. If we can get 25% of the people who are scrolling down the newsfeed to stop and watch a video, that's doing pretty well. Right? And if we find something's working organically pretty well, then we can boost it. If your ratio of organic to paid is out of whack and it's like mostly paid, then people will see it's advertising and it can be too much weight on your page to be reliant upon advertising only. But if it's a new page, small page, if you have only a few hundred fans and if you're only getting a few hundred video views or a few hundred impressions per post, then this ratio is going to be a little bit out of whack. But once you start to build and you have a few of these posts that you're starting to boost, then you're going to find that these posts, when you're only putting a few dollars a day against it, especially against remarketing audiences, they're not going to burn out. All too often, I've seen people, because 1 in 10 ads will work and they find one it's a winner and then they just turn the knob all the way and they basically blow the engine. And then they say, oh, the ad burnt out. Now I got to make another ad. So they keep making ads, they find a winner, then they just gun the thing and they kill it. Kill it isn't in a bad way, isn't like the thing dies. The good ad dies because they got greedy. You want to keep the ratio, your frequency, less than 2 per ad set per week. If it goes higher than that, people get tired of it. You ever have a favorite song? You really like it for the first week and you play it over and over again. And then a week later, you're like, I'm sick of this song. Same thing with your ads, right? Don't get greedy. Evergreen ads. Turn it up to the point where your frequency is not too high. And then you can start to have lots and lots of winners and not just, turn the volume way up and it dies a week later and then it's dead, right? Don't do that. You want to look at your shares versus your reactions. See, a lot of times you could do something funny like with babies, with pets, and you get people watching because it's kind of fun, but they don't really share or they don't buy or they don't convert the remarketing audience off of this because you can remarket to the next audience, next tier down, which is what we call yield. Yield is how much you get out of the next tier down. Because we're not just looking for cheap video views all day long. We actually want to drive sales. So we're actually measuring through these different steps. Another way to look at it is how many shares am I getting relative to my reactions? If I'm getting 1-to-1 or better, then that means people really like my content. But what if my shares versus reactions is really good, but my view through rate isn't very good? Or what if my view through rate is good, but another thing's not as good, or my base CPM or is not as good, or what? If any one of these things is good, that's something worth keeping it alive to look at it, right? Don't think that everything has to be true. You might look at this and say, my view through rate isn't very good. I'm only getting 30%, but I'm getting penny through plays. 15 seconds to through play, right? Okay, great. Now let's see if we can try to turn the budget up a little bit more, maybe expand the audience, maybe make a variation of this one video to try to, because maybe the people that dropped out in the beginning, if we had a low view through rate, maybe it's because we started with a bumper. Maybe we need to make it portrait instead of landscape, so people have a longer runway to land on, right? Because it takes up more of the newsfeed, right? Or maybe we need to capture their attention with some kind of animation, or maybe, there's always ways that you can take something that's a partial winner and try to tune it. Then you get into a subjective area where it's, well, do I just kill the ad right away, or is there room for me to tune it? It's like an old car. Is it time where I'm like, you know what, this car is just costing me too much to repair, I just need a new car? Or, if I just change the transmission, I can get another 50,000 miles out of this car. So kind of like this with ads, right? You need to look at all these different factors and decide how much of it's really worth sharing, and are we at that stage where that's it, or we can keep putting something against it. Usually we find out right away, is it good or not? And that's 90% of the time. So let's talk about the 4 components of a 1-minute video. And most people, they start selling in their video. They start saying, I'm Dennis Yu and I'm the CEO of Blitzmetrics, and you should hire us to run Facebook ads for you. People have already scrolled past you. They don't even know who you are. They don't know why they should care. And it sounds self-serving because you're talking about yourself. The best thing is you have someone else talk about you, and you start with the story, with a hook. Best way to start with a hook, severalfold. One is visual attention. So I could have something like this, and I could flip through a deck of cards, and I could say, Facebook gave me this deck of cards, and do you want to know what I've learned from it? Then I've just got a hook. Or maybe, I'm drinking a bottle of water, and I'm talking about what my favorite drink is. Could be anything. I'm trying to get someone's attention, usually visual attention. The cheesiest thing you could do is you could wave at people. And if you have like a fancy camera, you could even come in and start like this and come all the way in and focus it. Oh, can you focus on me? And come all the way. I don't know. There's different ways to get people's attention, right? You could also start with getting their attention by telling a story. So when I went to Costco yesterday, there was no toilet paper and people were just like acting like it was the end of the world. So I just told the story in initial entry, hook, in 3 seconds. 85% of people that are on Facebook on mobile, and I think a desktop is similar, are using sound off. Their sound is not on. So if you're talking and you're saying something and you're motioning and their sound's off, they have no idea what's going on unless there's the captions down here below. Another thing that you can do is you could wave at them, and then you could, like Gary Vaynerchuk does this, and he'll say like this, like he's talking, as in like, and he'll point down saying, turn the sound on, right? I think that's a little intrusive. I think that's like yelling at somebody, but hey, if that's your style, that works too. But whatever, start with the hook. The hook is to get their attention. First 3 seconds, the only point of the hook is to get their attention. So some kind of motion, something exploding, some kind of visual effect, not your bumper, not your company logo, not you saying who your name is. At the end, you say who your name is, right? From the hook where you're getting their attention, then you want to ignite their pain or pleasure, set up the situation. Say when coronavirus hit, I had to shut down my store, and I was afraid I wouldn't be able to pay my employees because of whatever your situation is, right? Or it could be you tell the situation of a customer. When Sally's car broke down, she didn't have enough money to pay her bills, and she didn't have any insurance. And she felt guilty because she felt like she was a bad mom because she couldn't take care of the basics for her 2 kids that needed health care, because she knew that her employer offered health care, but it was too much because she was making $12 an hour. But then she found out about Redirect Health, and Redirect Health allows her as a single mom to be able to provide for her kids for $114 a month. And you can call this phone number right here to be able to you start with a hook, you describe kind of what you ignite the pain or pleasure. So you're framing what the problem is, because there's always a problem. If there's no problem, if you don't rub the wound and do it in a tasteful way, if you don't make clear that there's a problem to solve, then people are not interested in your solution, right? So from the problem, you describe how you overcome the problem with or without your product or service, and then you go to the call to action. Now, the beauty is that if you do this in a minute, you can capture people's attention, because it's only 3 seconds for the hook. It's only another 10 or 15 seconds to be able to describe a situation, because if they stay 3 seconds, they'll give you another 15 seconds, and then they'll give you another 30 seconds. We were talking about the issue. You're sharing some knowledge. You're not selling yet. And then here at the end, you're saying, and I'm Dr. Smith, call me at this phone number below. I'm happy to chat with you anytime, or I'm happy to message with you, or come in. If the store is open, come in and see me, right? And you're not saying, I'm Dr. Smith and I do all these different things, and here's how we're better, and let me talk about my business. And You don't have to do any of that, right? You only have 10 seconds at the end as your call to action. If you try to put a minute here, then you end up not being able to tell a good story. You don't build the trust, and then it comes off as very salesy. So learn how to tell this kind of 1-minute video. This 1-minute video is where you can start and drive sales all the way through. If you're a local business, meaning you're serving people just in a particular city, this is going to work super well for you. Okay. This is actually combining different portions of why, how, and what in one video, because it follows a story framework, because it says, hey, I'm being vulnerable, which you'd never hear that in a commercial, right? And then there's a situation, which is how Hollywood gets you, because they tease you with the movie trailers. And then you're sharing knowledge. You never see people share real knowledge in a commercial. You hear them selling, right? They don't actually give you real stuff. They just tease you. Just like webinars where they talk for 90 minutes and you're waiting for them to actually say something. And then at the end, you say, hey, come talk to me, or I have a lead magnet, or come to my site and I'm going to give you a 12-page thing on how to do whatever, right? Your lead magnet. So another way to do that, following this sequence of telling 1-minute videos, is for the hook, when I was, and have your talent, have your employees, have the other people that you're interviewing. Like ideally your leaders and the people that run your company. It could be the person who runs a call center, the person who is the secretary, whoever it doesn't matter. They don't have to be the CEO. And they start with a story. When I was. Start with that. Don't use these other words. Don't say, I'm about to tell you a story when I grew up. And no, don't do that. Start with when I was, right? When I was 18, I dropped out of high school. True story, right? When I was interesting, I want to know what happened next. Or when I was 6 years old, I first learned how to speak English and I was made fun of by kids because I didn't know what was a good word or a bad word. And I went to the principal's office for words that people told me, if you really like someone, call them this. And I didn't know. And I was ostracized. Like, you tell the story, right? And then you go into the story, and let's say the story is. And so I would run home crying because I felt like everyone was an enemy because they were all making fun of me. And, little kids can be so mean. So I just went home and I studied, and I went to the library and I read books and I read the dictionary. I read the Oxford Unabridged Dictionary because I wanted to learn English really well and not speak with an accent. So much to the point where I was just studying 6 or 7 hours every day, weekends, holidays, summer, until I was able to represent California in the National Spelling Bee in 1988. True story. And I believe that anyone who studies hard enough, like a good Asian, can learn what's necessary to overcome whatever their issue is. You can become proficient in any other area if you study hard enough and get the right mentors. And thus I started Blitzmetrics because I want people to be able to get access to the knowledge so that they can overcome problems and challenges they have with digital marketing in a step-by-step way. You can do any kind of thing. Whatever you're selling, you can do this. Let's say you're selling B2B software and you have a customer saying, hey, when I was, let's say you're selling marketing automation software. When I was building these marketing campaigns, I felt that I was always behind because they keep loading me up with all the software and I felt so overwhelmed. And I believe that as a marketer, things are getting more complex because I'm having to learn every single tool and things change all the time. And, conferences, I come away more confused than I came in because I have now more notes and more things to do and I don't have more time. And thus, we're at such and such company. We're at Wistia and we help you make videos. Or I use Wistia. Maybe it's a customer point of view. I use Wistia for my video. Or I use Lightspeed to create my training solutions. Or I use WordPress for building websites. Or I use GoDaddy for my domains because they make it easy for me, right? So you have these 3 stages. Your hook, when I was, you're telling that story. The story goes for 30 seconds, 40 seconds. I believe that 10 or 15 seconds of a statement that comes from the story because of the story. Here's what we believe. And therefore I started, or I am, or I'm a customer of so-and-so because they take care of me. I use Redirect Health for my employees because we believe healthcare is important, or like whatever it is, right? It goes back to these statements. And this is a logical flow that just works, and you can even mad libs this and fill in the blank. These are the 3 components to a why video. Learn how to tell the story yourself. It can be anything as simple as when I was at Whole Foods, this woman cut me off in the parking lot. And I thought, I'm going to tell her. But then I realized that everybody's struggling under pressure. They're afraid of getting the virus. They can't pay their rent. A third of Americans didn't pay any rent last month. And I believe that when people are under stress, they sometimes act poorly because they're not themselves. And it's like an animal that's in pain. They don't hate you. It's not against you. It's the situation that they're in. So don't take it personally. And because of that, I'm so-and-so and this is what I do, right? And I care about people. That's why I started this digital marketing agency. That's why I'm a chiropractor. That's why whatever it is, the products or services that you offer, right? You can take any moment. It doesn't have to be some life challenging kind of item. Think about how you might put those items together. If you want to do something with your employees, you can also get them to do these 1-minute videos. And I find it works really well, like in a Zoom call, or if you can get people in person with social distancing or whatnot, where we get people to take turns telling their story. You can do it in any kind of live call, like a go-to meeting, or you can do it in a Blue Jeans call and people take turns telling their stories and people clap. Great way to collect feedback. Or if you want to interview somebody for your podcast, you can start a podcast. What do you need to start a podcast? Nothing more than to tell someone that you want to interview that you have a podcast or a YouTube channel, right? So then you become an instructor and you are collecting these different components. You can guide customers through this. First couple times they tell the story of how they selected you and why they like you and how you made them feel. Maybe it's not very smooth the first time around, but over time you'll start to gather this, okay? When you have these stories, you're going to be able to then build them around people. So my friend Mark Lack, he's the young Tony Robbins. Look, he's shiny. He's also a well-known motivational speaker. And he's got all these stories that he's told on these different social media channels, including email and his website and Quora and TikTok and Snapchat and all that, just because we have to be there, right? And so there's the plumbing of your content. Your content that's out here, you're telling these different stories just like consumers, but you're using your Facebook public figure page, not your profile, because you can't run ads on your profile. But on your company page, right? A business page in your company's name and a business page that's called Byron White, that's called your name, right? First name, last name. Don't say first name, last name, SEO expert. Say first name, last name, just like a profile, but it's a page, right? You have all this content here, and then you're going to organize it around these topics. So for example, my company, Blitzmetrics, what do I care about? Well, I care about, or where I have expertise. I care about managing people and education and being clear on what your why is and mentorship, right? But if I just declare to you, hey, we're Blitzmetrics, we're an educational platform that creates jobs for young adults because we bring supply and demand together, right? We help local businesses by training up thousands of people who can serve these local businesses, right? And so therefore we're a network. We're like an Uber and eBay or what have you that brings these people together. Well, if I say we care about mentorship and education because that's how we train up all these certified young adults and stay-at-home moms and people out in the military. And that's how we pair them with local businesses that need help, right? Plumbers and chiropractors and restaurants. Well, if I just said we care about digital marketing, that doesn't carry any weight because that's just like, well, anyone who does digital marketing says they're good at digital marketing. Is anyone going to ever say, oh, I'm terrible at digital marketing? I wish you didn't ask. I have to admit to you, I really don't know how to do digital marketing. Everyone believes, just like everyone believes they're a good driver, right? No one believes they're a bad driver. You've seen the studies, right? Where they take 100 people and ask them 1 to 10, how do you think you are? And 5 is average and the average is a 7, which is obviously not possible. The average should be a 5 if people were neutral. So the way you get around that is you take people who are well respected and known. So in the world of education, Newton Lee is a well-known professor. He and I co-authored Facebook Nation, which is in 700 universities. And so when I interview him and we put out content together, I don't ever need to say that my company or me or whatever is knowledgeable in education because I'm interviewing these other people. I'm working together with these other people, or, Ryan Dice is my friend. And so I interview him about entrepreneurship, about how he started Digital Marketer and about how to speak on stage and about how he hires and fires people. That's kind of cool, but you didn't know that, right? And here's Mark Lack. And there's all the things that he cares about. And then there's his whole network. So whenever we've made content together about how do you find a mentor, and he's got some amazing mentors like, John Assaraf and the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, right? Then their network becomes your network. And so we've got lots of these little stories. I can ask them stories, piece them into whys, piece them into hows, like how do you do this or that, or anything, right? Any kind of content where they're not promoting me, but they're just talking about a topic that I care about and I promote them. It comes from my public figure page. Public figure page on the why, public figure page on the how, company page on the what. You got your company page. You could run your why and how content from your company page, but we like to go public figure page, which could be the Cortez Riggs public figure page, to the Cortez Riggs public figure page, to the Military Influencer Conference business page, right? That's why you need 2 or more Facebook public figure pages. 1 or 2 public figures that you're able to boost from, post content and boost some of those posts, and you boost it to another remarketing set of content here on how to do something. And they could come in on mentorship and then move to digital marketing and then move to any of these topics. And so choose 6 topics, right? Usually you'll choose 3 of them that are professional, that are related to your product, and then 3 of them that are more personal and softer. If you're a consultant, then you want to do the same thing. 3 that are professional and 3 that are personal. Don't just choose 6 things that are only in direct relation to your product, because then you don't have a well-rounded topic wheel. You have this lopsided oblong thing that doesn't really roll very nicely, right? The influence generator is how you're able to, by using this topic wheel structure, how you're able to leverage the influence that other people have. So I have 10 videos with Grant Cardone. You could hate him or love him, but I've asked him questions like, how do you make a 1-minute video? How do you hire hundreds of people and manage them for Cardone Capital? And how do you manage your time? How do you decide when to work out? Or, I've asked him these different questions and he's made tons of videos. And I take that and I boost it to his audience. High relevancy, high click-through rate, low CPM, low cost per video view. Big audience. Then I I remarket that to like Al Casey. Al Casey was my mentor. He was the CEO of American Airlines. So I was very lucky to have the CEO of a Fortune 500 company be a mentor. And naturally, then they'll see another piece of content about how I am so grateful for Al Casey as a mentor. And then they'll see about how Michael Stelzner runs Social Media Examiner and 7,000 people at his conference and how he's able to organize his whole team and have the #1 social media marketing property, #1 podcast, #1 conference, #1 community, right? #1 blog. And so people can bounce around between these different topics. They come in on one, then remarket to another one. And do I need to force where the next one is? Do I need to draw these lines? No, because Facebook's doing it for me. Because I put all my why content into one bucket, one remarketing audience bucket. Then I remarket down to all this content in the next layer. And anyone who consumes any content in this middle layer, I remarket all these people down to this next layer. I don't do any exclusions. I don't say people who saw this one, anything in the top layer, I'm going to exclude the entire top layer. So I'm going to force everyone only here. No, they could consume multiple whys. They could consume why, how, what. They can consume multiple each of these levels because we know people are probably going to have 10 or 15 touches. So don't force everyone straight to buying right away. Facebook's going to know when they're ready to buy. Facebook knows when they don't have the money. Facebook knows where you are. Facebook knows when people are on the toilet. People are there, they did studies for BuzzFeed knowing when to share like silly content with cats. They know when people are just in line at the supermarket waiting for groceries and they have 2 minutes, like whatever it might be, right? So let Facebook do that micro-targeting for you. You just set up 3 big buckets. Why, how, and what remarketing buckets. This is going to save you so much time. If you're looking to get fancy at Facebook ads, I'm not here to do that anymore. I used to do that 5 years ago, but if you want results, let the system do the work for you. This is the influence generator. This is the topic wheel. You're going to build it out slowly over time. Evergreen content that you've already produced, content that you can send an assistant to go out and look for that you didn't even know people were saying good things about you that you could now stick here. Now you've got crowdsourced content. This is how you're going to succeed on Facebook. Now use this template to be able to fill out your topic wheel. Again, we know it's why, how, and what. And you have your product or service. You probably already have this content here in the middle. Do you have a landing page that talks about why your product or service is so awesome, what it costs, what are the features and benefits, what kinds of things are on sale, what are the different components of your service offering, how is it different than the competitors? How do you use your product? Let's say it's a camera. Well, how do I go out and take pictures? And what is an f-stop? And what is aperture? And how do I get my lighting right? And I might teach things that are not directly related to the product. A lot of people think that the how is directly on the product. No, you can teach things like, bird watching if you're doing cameras. If you're selling telephoto lenses, talk about bird watching and what the best bird watching guides are and how do you shoot at a professional sports game or how do you do without having to talk about the product. The second you talk about the product, you're down here. So here, if you're interviewing other people on how to do something in their area of expertise, even if it's not directly related to your product, this is where you're building a lot of power. Most marketers don't do this. If you do this, you can then remarket into your product. Then you're going to look at your brand lift, more people searching on brand terms, more people typing in your name, more direct non-traffic, more social traffic. You have more fans, more brand power. All these kinds of things come from building out this central layer here. And then the people that you have, choose people that you know. Choose people that are experts that you don't know, but you could probably get them on a Zoom for 2 minutes. Choose competitors, right? Oh no, I can't talk to my competitors. We're fierce competitors to the death. Well, when you realize that this layer out here is just telling stories, their network becomes yours. And then you realize that you actually aren't direct competitors because your stories are different and you guys niche out slightly differently. I guess technically if you're a dentist, then a dentist is very similar to other dentists in the same city, but there's specializations and there's differences. And when you're telling these kinds of stories, there's so much that other people can't copy. So I was showing you that I have videos with Grant Cardone. No one can rip off my content. They could rip off landing pages. There are people that straight up rip off our courses. They just replace the Blitz Metrics logo down here and put their logo. That's okay, but they can't replace the people that you have. They can't replace word of mouth. So when you build this topic wheel, this is where you really get the most power in your Facebook marketing. And this is going to drive everything else that you do in social. I'd encourage you to take a moment and stop and think about who are the people that have the most authority, not influencers that don't have anything to do with your product or service at all, but are just paid because they have a lot of fans on Instagram, but people who actually are knowledgeable in topics that are credible to what you have to sell. This is very much a top, middle, bottom of the funnel format. I think you're going to find it's absolutely incredible, but it's going to take you a little bit of time to assemble this topic wheel. Don't freak out. Put lots of 15-second, 1-minute videos. Don't worry too much about video editing. You don't need a professional videographer. You don't need a big budget. All you need is this thing here, and you can make videos right there. Learn how to speak, teach other people how to speak, go through our training on how to be able to do this. If you just can't say the words right and you freeze up when you look in the camera, have someone interview you off screen like this and the camera's off to the side like that. Or just have someone talk to you and someone else holds the iPhone. There's many different ways to do it, right? My favorite thing to do is just interview customers and clients. Let them do the work for you. You got a good product or service, they'll do the work for you. This should be easy to fill out. If you have a brand new product, then that's tougher, right? Because you haven't established social proof yet. Now start mapping out your company and personal brand to all the content that you've produced before. So look at what's done the best on your blog. Look at what you rank on. Look at what email subject lines are working the best and start making video versions of each of these. And if you have videos that are working well, start turning them into blog posts, right? So Michael Stelzner and I have created videos on what is an influencer and how do you make a good Facebook ad and what are the main mistakes people do in digital marketing and how do you train up young adults and all this stuff. And we've got lots of videos of him and I just talking about stuff that we could maybe not exactly predicted because that's somehow, conversations go this way or that way. Well, those conversations I'm then going to turn into different blog posts. I'm going to turn them into tweets. I'm going to turn them into Facebook instant articles, right? And likewise, I'm going to take something like with, Al Casey, where he talks about employment because he was the postmaster general and he had 300,000 employees. That's crazy. Can you imagine having that many employees? Like, how do you manage that many employees? What happens when you have a recession? How do you decide when to raise the price of a stamp by a penny or not, right? That's cool stuff. And those articles I then turn into videos. And I say, I remember when Al Casey sat down and told me about mentorship and what it was like to run a company with 300,000 employees. And he took my hands where I said, what's it like being at the top of this pyramid with 300,000 employees and all their families? And now you're looking at 1 million people and everyone else dependent upon this. You're the CEO. And he took my hands and he turned them upside down. And he said, I sit here at the bottom and I'm serving all those families and employees. And, I'm here and I serve all of them. And that's really what a powerful servant leader does. They think about not themselves as being the big boss, sitting, smoking a cigar and feet up on the desk and leaving at 3:00 to play golf. I think about them and it keeps me up at night and I'm always trying to, so just like stories like that, I'm just relaying things that are meaningful to me. They're on the outside of my topic wheel. It has nothing to do with digital marketing per se or products or services that we offer, but we found that because people buy from people they like and they trust, that if you do that, even if it has nothing to do with your product or service, people are more willing to buy. And if you don't believe me, have you ever hired a babysitter? And maybe the babysitter is a friend of a friend, or it's the girl who lives, a couple houses down. And she might not be a great babysitter, but you've kind of known her for a while. If you had to choose her as your babysitter for next week, you're going to go to whatever and you need a babysitter, versus this other girl who's also in the neighborhood and she's got a spectacular resume, like all the different degrees for babysitting, if there was such a thing. And, lots of great references, but you've never met her. Who would you choose? You choose the one that you know, even if she's not a great babysitter. And so people will choose based on who they have met and who they know. even if it's something completely unfamiliar. It's called the law of proximity. People who have met each other because they sat next to each other in class for biology, they're more likely to get married. The coworker that you saw in the cafeteria, you're more likely to, whatever, go play volleyball with them. All those things are due to the law of proximity. And what you're doing is you're just taking advantage of this age-old principle of human nature by showing that you're connected to these other people. And that's really all you're doing with social media. Facebook's algorithm is trying to do that for you, mapping out your brand, mapping out the brands of your company, the brands of these other people, and it's social influence. It's the same reason why Hanes pays Michael Jordan to promote underwear in, Verizon or something like that. What does Michael Jordan know anything about Verizon? I don't think he knows anything, but he's being paid, right? Or LeBron James doesn't know anything about Kia. Does he actually drive a Kia? I think he drives a fancy sports car, right?